All right. All righty.
And we are live.
Hi, everybody. We're live. I'm so excited. This is Betsy. Hi. Welcome to our Looking Ahead to 2021 Advice and Encouragement panel. I have three of my fabulous clients with me today. We have Maia Akiva and Jennylyn Chung. And we have Flo with us here today. I'm so happy to have you all to talk to about planning for 2021. I thought this was such a brilliant idea that Maia had, that even though we're in the middle of some other things and we're on the brink of the holiday season, we could look a little further ahead to the future and talk about 2021. So I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to in the last few years, where you're coming to us from, and what you're looking to do in 2021. So we'll start with Jenny.
Okay, so my name's Jennylyn Chung, and I grew up in Orange County, California, and I am in New York now, actually Long Island, full time, and I absolutely love living here. It's a real dream come true. What am I looking forward to about 2021? So many things. I feel really hopeful and really excited. I'm really excited to continue to work on my singing and my voice and to get more content out. I'm excited to keep growing my business. I have a really good feeling, like really great relationship things are coming my way. So I'm excited about all of that. Yeah. So, and I love the holidays. So I'll be watching a lot of Hallmark channel and lots of gingerbread lattes and Christmas shopping. So this is my favorite season of the year. So
sounds great. Maia?
Hello. My name is Maia, and I'm very, very happy to be here. I'm kind of like a feeling coach. I help people go to their blocks. I have a podcast where I interview my feelings every episode. It's called Interview with Myself. If you're into that kind of stuff, come join us. And oh my God, 2021. All right. So if we learn anything from 2020 is don't make any big plans for 2021. Have ideas and vision and wants and desires, and let it see what happens. But I think that like every year, I do want to have some project I want to accomplish and things I want to move forward with, especially now that we know how technology work and how to do things not in live. So it's kind of like it helps and we can kind of plan around it and have two versions of things and stuff like that. But I'm what we call proceeding cautiously. So I'm making plans and I have visions, but I'm also waiting to see what happens. And unlike 2020, I'm opening up myself to change and to surrender and to kind of see what's going on and to learn how to like handle things that not going my way, because I did not handle well in 2020.
Okay, thank you. And Flo?
Hi guys, I'm Flo. I'm an artist. Music is my love, my heartbeat, my passion. So 2021, you know what? Call me an idealist. I think that there's, beauty in the madness, and I think there's a silver lining coming. I'm hopeful for new beginnings. Whether we return back to slowly, gradually return back to a normal or a new normal. I know that, good things are coming, and we're going to move past this and move on as humanity has moved past other, challenges and obstacles or pandemics that have happened in the past. So, and I feel that there's always blessings in the tough times. I think that, COVID has really given us new perspective. It's really helped us to change our priorities and figure out what's most important. And I think it's helped us channel into new talents and projects that have been put on the back burner. So I'm excited to continue to use this time to finish projects that need to get done and get ready for, when things open back up again.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. So I'm Betsy. I'm currently in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'll be here for another few weeks at least. I started this business with actually a few women because I wanted to help promote gigging speakers and musicians and life coaches. I mean, you all are multi-talented. All my clients are multi-talented. So I've done a little bit of everything. And I feel like, especially inspired by Maia, who has had such a successful business, and Jenny, all of you have worked so hard through this year, I think. But in the years previously, we're also working really hard to build your own businesses. And so a big part of my priorities in the coming year will be continuing to plan online events and trying to keep a read on where it is safe and profitable for you all to go out and do things as well. So, and also I have this little fledgling nonprofit to raise money for folks who don't have homes, to try to bring people into tiny houses. So those two things are my biggest priority for the future, and I'll just be working to find new ways to implement those things. So we have some really great questions that I think cover a lot of ground for what a lot of people are thinking about right now. So we're just going to go ahead and jump in with one of those questions, and we're going to go to Maia first. So going into this year, I had some big plans. I'd been needing a change in my career for so long, and I finally seemed to have something good going before COVID. How do you recover from a loss of momentum in your career when all of your opportunities hit a wall?
Yeah, that's a tough one, and many people have experienced that. It's kind of like multi-layers. There's the internal work that I recommend you do, and then the external work that I recommend you do. I think the first thing I would say is allow yourself to grieve, because sometimes we forget that even losing an opportunity or losing something always leads to grief. And it's really hard to move forward, or it's really hard to move forward in a healthy way when we don't grieve what we lost. And there's a lot of grieving for a lot of people on many different levels in 2020. So allow yourself to grieve, read about grief, buy a book, do some meditations, allow yourself to be sad about it, because it's much better to start creating a new life for yourself, or bring more opportunities from that place. After you feel like you grieved and you cried and you comfort yourself, or you used other people on Zoom to comfort yourself, I would say do a strategy session, with yourself, with a friend, with a coach, and figure out, okay, what is my talents? What can I do? Can I transfer what I did into the way the world looks now? Or do I have to use talents that I've never asked people for money for? What actions do I need to do? And and start taking action from that place. And again, if you're really stuck, there are so many coaches out there, all of us included, that can really help you and have gone through big changes in their lives, and can really help you own down about what are your talents and how to make money in your talents. Because the one great things about America is that you can pretty much turn anything into a business. You just got to learn how to do it, because you have talents that other people need. Everybody does, and it's just learning what they are, being okay with them, and then taking action business-wise, because business requires certain specific action to do it. And through all of that, remember that you have feelings, and that's okay. And you can still grieve through this process of moving forward and taking action, and be angry, and you can be down, and you can be sad. That's all allowed, because you went through something very big and very significant, and money is always a triggering, scary thing to adult. So I hope that helps.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Jenny, do you want to answer next?
Sure. You covered everything. It's hard to add to that. She's
Just
right about
expand on them.
Okay. All right. I'll try to take it even deeper, but that was really good because she's right about everything. You know, if you're going through hardships, whether certain people you know got sick during this time, whether you lost a lot of small business owners lost everything. And, you know, a lot of people are suffering because, you know, like even Courtney mentioned last week, you know, like they weren't able to get on unemployment, things like that. So people are suffering in very real ways during this time. And I really am an advocate of feeling your pain to the deepest extent before you can really process it and allow it to lift off of you in order to move forward, like kind of released. So what I try to do if I'm feeling in despair or really, really scared or really upset is just to really like kind of stop what I'm doing and really feel my feelings. And I notice that when I'll just like sort of allow the feelings to simmer within me and kind of go to like, I guess, sort of the nucleus of the pain, I find that it lifts supernaturally, kind of on its own with time, sometimes immediately, but sometimes on its a little bit of time of grieving and it will lift. And I just want to say too about how just brilliant about like honing in on your talents. You know, everyone is very unique. And everyone comes to life with, you know, different talents. And the quarantine time or time when you're stuck at home is a time to reflect on what is it you truly love? What are you truly passionate about? What are you good at? And this is for many people who are fortunate enough to be safe at home, and that isn't the case for everyone. But for many people who are either on employment or they have some sort of income coming in and they're able to be home, this is an ideal time to actually step into what you love with courage, you know, and to step into your passions. And I guess the last thing I'll say about that is that I'm a big believer in inspired action. And what I mean by that is, yes, if you watched me all day in my office and in the work I do, you would say, oh, you know, Jennylyn, she's a hustler, you know, she's working hard, she's always doing something. And the truth is, it doesn't feel like hustle to me. It feels like play, it feels like fun, it feels like a chance to express myself. And it's that cliche thing that people say, like, if you do something you love, you won't feel like you're working a day in your life. So I really encourage people to tap into inspired action, where you sort of gain access to this supernatural energy and creativity and excitement and work ethic that you wouldn't have in any other line of work. And so that's really contingent on being courageous enough to own your passions, your talents, and to go after them. Flo, do you have something you want to add to that?
I think you two covered it, but Jenny, you just you ignited what I think is very important. I think for human beings is that we have to have passion, because life, you know, for the best of us, for any of us, is gonna have its ups and downs. And I remember an Academy Award speech that Ben Affleck, you know, the only thing I mentioned I remember from it is that he said that to all of us, we're all gonna fall down. But he's like, but those who are victorious, those who rise up, you know, through the ups and downs of life, which is inevitable, is, you know, those who are able to get back up. And I think what really will help us to, like, you know, continue to like push forward in those tough times, for example, this year, is passion. Because passion is that thing that like makes you get up and want to like push forward through the challenges to get to that vision, to get to that dream, to get to that goal. So whatever it is that in this time that you reflect about who you are and what you're born to do, what is it that you would want to do that you could do for hours and lose track of time, that you could do for hours without getting paid? That's your passion.
Good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you all. You know, I'm gonna sort of go in the opposite direction a little bit, not to be contrary, but just because I think that actually, even though we're going through hard things, we're not going through the same stages of life in the same seasons. So while for some of us, we might be able to start making money off of our passion and something that we've really found, there are others of us that might be finding ourselves needing to take a survival job, or the kind of job that you never would have considered taking before. And what I found is that sometimes when you take a job that you think is going to be a drudgery and a misery, and sometimes it even really is for a while, that if you're willing to do it with the right attitude, and and you should follow your intuition. Like if you have a gut instinct this is going to be a bad job for you, like I never recommend going against your gut. But if you find yourself in a position where you only have one option in front of you and you don't see anything else that's going to bring you a paycheck in the next couple of weeks, be willing to give it a try, because you never know. I mean, I took a grocery store job one time that only lasted 2 weeks. I had every intention of keeping it for the entire summer. But then I fell into another job and then another job after that. And so but for those 2 weeks, that paycheck was helpful. That was keeping me going. And if it takes a season of you working in a job that otherwise you would never have humbled yourself to take, there's going to be blessings there too. And you never know, if you just make one friend on the job who might be a lifelong friend, or your next boss, or your collaborator in your next business. You never know. Some of the blessings of my most miserable jobs were just not what I expected. So that's the practical grandma advice that nobody wants to hear. But we might be in that stage for some people. So you've got to assess your own life and go from there. Okay, next question. Next question is different. Okay, and this one we're going to go to Jenny first. I'm seriously considering moving to another city or state just to start over, save on rent, or live under different COVID restrictions. How do I know if it's the right decision?
Okay, so moving is my specialty because I've moved a million times in my life. It just never ends. And as soon as I get comfortable, I move again. My biggest move was moving from California to New York. I did it twice. I did it once when I was 18, and then I did it again recently, a few years ago. And you feel different energies on different sides of the coast. Yes, people have commonalities no matter where you are, but you feel a different energy depending on where you live. You get a different kind of creative flow, a different kind of inspiration. I feel different in my body when I'm in LA than when I am in New York. So because of that, for me, New York was a lifelong dream. And I didn't know how I was going to get over here because I was in LA and really Orange County because I had a business and I had singing contracts and I had family and I had all kinds of wonderful things that I was doing, but my heart was never there. And so I never really felt like I could really fully build all of my roots. It sort of held me back. It held me back in my progress in my work, because I just kind of had this resistance inside of my soul about building really, really deep in a county that I didn't want to live in forever. So eventually I moved to New York. It was quite traumatic and all kinds of scary things happened and all that kind of stuff. But eventually I got to New York. And once I got here is when everything began to take off, because I no longer had resistance about building from the ground up here. And luckily I built most of my business on the internet. And so that worked out really good for me during COVID. But I'm a big fan of taking leaps from time to time. And they're very scary. And thankfully, I don't think God asks us to take a ton of leaps all the time. I think a lot of life is baby steps towards joy and baby steps away from misery. But occasionally, from time to time, expect God to bring you to the ledge and ask you to leap. And from time to time, get ready to look your deepest fears in the eyes. And it's important to be able to do that and to know there's going to be a really big net there for you. He's going to catch you. There's going to be mysterious helping hands. You're going to meet people you never thought to inspire you and to practically help you along your path. So I think it takes a lot of courage, but I'm a big fan because if your heart is longing to be somewhere else, I think you should follow your heart. And because you will feel differently when you get to the city of your dreams. It will inspire you in different ways. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Flo, you want to answer that one?
Sure, I can, I think Jenny had a fantastic perspective. I'm just going to piggyback and echo on that, to the fact that some of the most, some of the most successful people that a lot of us look up to have all had to take risks and leaps of faith. And it's in discomfort, it's in the uncomfortable that you grow the most. And when you face those giants, that's when you come to realize how strong you are and what you're made out of. So I love what Jenny said, and I completely echo and agree with that. And I find that it's only when you're ready to leap, that's when you're going to see yourself soar. Because if you don't jump, how can you? You know what I mean? How can you soar like an eagle, right? So that's so cliche, but it really is true. When you leap, you come to realize that you will land properly back on your feet when you need to, or you will soar to heights that you never would had you just stayed safe and secure. And there's a lot of people that I know, and I could even attest with my own life, that I could have stuck with comfort and I guess, dare I say, complacency, but it would have been stagnant, you know what I mean? And it would have been misery, right? Comfortable misery and complacent stagnancy is what I describe it as. So I agree with Jenny. Like when you have something in you, it's for a reason. So go and check it out. And if it's not right, okay, at least at the end of the day, at the end of your life, no regrets, you answered questions, do it, right? Because really it's win-win. It's always good to answer those questions versus never knowing. And if you flip that coin and it's wonderful, oh my gosh, there's nothing that equates to the opportunities, the experiences, and the growth and the things that can happen in your life. So yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Awesome. Maia?
I'm gonna give a different perspective than Jenny and Flo, just because I'm a Taurus and I'm a planner, and moving to another city on a gut wrench makes me want to have a heart attack. But I would say I agree with everything they said, of course. And if you do have a gut feeling or an inkling or desire, definitely check it out. But you can also do things, which I'm sure you both have done, do things a little bit more slow and responsible, meaning like if you can go to that place, find out what it is to live there, or find out where can you live if it's if it's doable for you. Ask people, do some research, and try to see. A lot of times nowadays you can go and live somewhere for a month, do a apartment swap with somebody, like you can kind of try it if you're not sure. Obviously if you're sure, go and do it. But I would say about the uncertainty and the decision is that, unfortunately, which I do not like, but unfortunately, when you make something that you're not sure is going to work, there's no way to 100% know if something will work. And part of it is accepting that and knowing that even if it end up being a mistake, that's okay. You tried, like Flo said, you thought that it would work out and it didn't. And you can always change your mind. You can always go somewhere else or go back. Again, if you plan it the right way, sometimes you can even plan knowing like, okay, if it doesn't work out, what is my B plan? What can I do? Should I leave my apartment for a month until I know, you know what I mean? Like there's things you can do to just make it a little bit more smoother. But I totally agree with what they both say too. Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. I think there's sometimes there's more than one right decision. I will say that. You don't have to feel that there is only one right decision and that you are locked in, and that if you do it wrong, you'll be kicking yourself forever. Don't do that to yourself, your future self, where you say, you better get this right or else. I've made the mistake just within LA of moving from one place to another too soon because I wanted to get out of my present situation. And so I would say you want to ask yourself the question, am I trying to escape from or move to? Because it's great to move somewhere that has good community or a better opportunity or whatever it is that you feel more peace about being there than you do about where you currently are. Especially if you're going to be closer to family or closer to good friends, and you're going to feel a sense of community in the new place, you know, get it set up so that you're going to have, you know, or at least ahead of time, you know, where the grocery store is, you know, so that you have a little bit of sense of familiarity before you get there. You know, and it's fine to leap, I think, expecting that God is going to catch you wherever you are, you know, and that there will be good people wherever you go and that you're going to be okay. But yeah, take some time, you know, overnight decisions can be mistakes. Sometimes they are. And a little preparation is good, especially you can't plan for every possibility. You can't plan against every possible disaster. Like there is no way that you can protect yourself from everything bad that could possibly happen. But you can take some time to talk through your decisions with a few people that you really trust, you know, and make the best decision you can, knowing that there is no perfect decision, especially in a crisis time like this. For me, I mean, I'm still in a decision, I'll be in a decision-making process, and I don't know, I might be moving a few times again in the next year, sort of like I did this year. I don't really know. And I'm okay with that. You know, I don't mind it. I kind of enjoy it. It has its inconveniences and it has its super blessings. So I'm not going to complain. I'm going to try not to and just take it one day at a time. So awesome. Next question. Alrighty. I constantly feel overwhelmed and it's taking away all my motivation to create or innovate. How can I get my groove back when the world is on fire? And should I even expect that in times like these? Flo, you want to take that one first?
Yeah, well, stress is a creativity killer. So, you know, definitely it's good to deal with stress and to, I think when you're overwhelmed, the most important thing is to like take things step by step, like take things in like bite-sized pieces. Like you're never going to expect someone to like literally eat a full pie or like a pizza in one bite, right? You're going to take it bite by bite. So just tackle those things that overwhelm you, like bit by bit, break it down so it's not so daunting anymore. Break it down and see what you can accomplish in one day, or even, you know, and then figure out what you're going to do the next day, you know, or even if you set aside a couple of hours or even 1 hour or 20 minutes to do, you know, to like face that thing. And then over time it accumulates towards like, you know, being accomplished, being finished, being tackled and faced. So I think take things step by step, bit by bit. And also give yourself time, give yourself time. There's a lot of people being a creative. I've had conversations with a lot of creatives who said that like 2020 just like sucked out the creativity in them for a bit. And then ideas came back. It's also in tough times, you know, or challenging times that the most amazing art comes forth, like paintings, film scripts, choreography, songs. So let yourself go through the emotions, but also take those emotions and like use them as fuel for your fire. You know, use those emotions and turn them into songs, turn them into stories, turn them into like dances and paintings. Because I guarantee you, the best inspiration is going to come by. You're actually probably going to knock your socks off and shock yourself. But know that you're not alone. So many people are going through the same thing in this very interesting year that we're encountering, but use it for your good. Good things are going to come about.
Absolutely. Maia or Jenny, who wants to jump in next?
I have a feeling we're going to have the same answer. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah, I was like, gosh, Flo, you did it again. Okay. Yes, I love that. Why does everything have to be done in a day? I don't understand. Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, what's wrong with throwing out your timelines?
100%.
Who cares? I don't even care anymore. I'm like, oh, this is delighting my soul. This is making me happy. So it'll come to pass when it comes to pass. Anytime I've tried to put a timeline on anything, it set me back. I don't think it's ever worked once for me to get so crazy about a timeline. I know, and that's not to say it doesn't work for some people. I know like a lot of men that are business owners that swear by setting very specific goals and very specific timelines. So it really might work for certain personalities. But as a creative myself, I find that I have a lot more fun. I accomplish a lot more. I create a lot more. I make more money. I have more opportunities when I'm just like in the flow and allowing things to unfold in due time, you know, as God purposes them to. I don't know, Maya, what do you think?
Let me answer it differently, okay? So we won't be repeated. A little bit more on, like, I would call it coaching, but it's not really. Like a little bit more from a different of what do you do when resistance shows up and when you feel depressed and you can't create, like you can't get to the place you both are talking about, and you can't get yourself to make that first step. And it's a very complicated question, and it's a very much a self-discovery journey, because everybody's different and everybody, the resistance comes from different place. But what I would say is that this is an opportunity for you to step up and take responsibility for your life, for yourself. And what I mean by that is that learning how to motivate yourself and how to create desire inside of you and your life and your creativity is a very important tool to have, no matter what's going on in the world. And definitely when we are faced with these very intense times. So it's kind of like a good news, bad news situation. The good news is you can find out what works for you. You know, talk to people, join communities, go to a coach, find out with yourself, go on a walk. Does that work? Try to set up a timer to write. Does that work? Watch some Netflix. Does that work? Figure out what motivates you, what inspires you when you don't feel inspired, and take action. The bad news is that nobody else is going to do it for you. But it's also a good news, because then it's your responsibility to find out what's inspire you. But then you have that tool in your arsenal, and you can always know that whenever you find yourself in a place when you can get yourself going, you know what works for you now. It's a journey of discovery, but it can help you a lot no matter what you go through life. And whenever you feel uninspired, or where you go through hard things but you still want to create, you can always go back there and go like, oh yeah, I know that I need to go right now, or weekend away with myself, and get away from everybody, because that's what works for me. That's what gets me started, for example. So yeah, so just a little bit of a different answer, even though I agree with everything, you both said, of course.
100%. I think, the artist way, if you've never done, the artist way, it'll give you specific assignments. And there's other, books and programs like that, that'll give you specific assignments that you might not have tried before. Those could really help you to go. Because I think that one of the things that's interesting that's happened this year is that a lot of us had our normal routine, not only our normal routine, but our normal coping mechanisms taken away from us in some form or fashion. And when that happens, you either sort of, isolate yourself further, and you get under your blanket further, and you do, and you eat, because I mean, what else can you do, because it's COVID? So you just don't have those other, normal social mechanisms, or, shopping mechanisms. Some of those normal things got taken away to a certain extent. So it can force you to innovate. I mean, I've definitely been in the place numerous times where I was so frustrated in one or two areas of my life that then I let it, color every other area of my life. And then I find myself at work snapping at people because I'm frustrated, because I've got so much to do and so many people piling work on my desk, and nobody's stopping to ask me how I am. I haven't had a good social conversation, or a good, gone out for lunch with somebody who cares about me in a few days. And I'm here all the time. I'm at this fever pitch. And if you're constantly living with just one or two other people, or if you got a big family of the same people, and you all have this same repeating dynamic, and there's nothing changing up the dynamic, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. So I would say for me, like, I have this huge to-do list right now every week, which is not a bad thing. I love having a long to-do list because there's a lot of time in a week. But if I look at it and I get overwhelmed, then you get to prioritize. You go, okay, well, what could actually wait till next week? And the same with financial priorities. I mean, for the first time, a couple of years ago, there was a while when I was always able to pay all my bills. And then there was a time when I had to start prioritizing, and I couldn't pay some of them right now. Well, I was not happy with that, but I knew how to do it. You learn how to do that when you have to, so that you can get to the next phase, get your income back up where it's supposed to be. And the other thing is, get someone to help you take some things off your plate. There's very few things that have to be you. If you're a mom, you need to be the mom, but like, that doesn't mean that someone can't help you with some aspects. And if you can barter with somebody to help you with your laundry for a day, don't be afraid to do that. And you can make a new friend in the process. That's, every time you just get creative and change up the dynamic just a little bit, your stress level starts to go down, because you start to realize that you're not being given an undoable life. Nobody's really being given an undoable life. It's just impossible to do it by yourself. And if you've been asking too much of yourself for a really long time, eventually you're going to hit a breaking point. So don't let yourself get to that point. Ask for help before you get to that point, if you can. All right, y'all, how long have we been on? About 35 minutes. So we've got about 10 more minutes to go. Does anybody have a question here on the Zoom that they want to ask each other? Or you want me to pull out one of the other questions on the list?
Ooh, I'd love
Sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
I'd love for Maia to tell us more about a couple key steps to trauma healing or childhood trauma healing. Like, if she could give us a couple tips. I thought that was so fascinating.
In 10 minutes. Do you have any specific, well, let me say that. I'll talk about 2020 and 2021 in trauma. Now, I'm not a trauma expert, but I've done a lot of trauma work and learned a lot about trauma and know a lot about trauma. I'm not a professional, even though I work in some treatment centers and facilitate creative writing groups. So I've been around that environment. But I think a lot of people experience trauma coming up in 2020 because it pushed a lot of old memories and old situation to people. And I would say trauma, unlike other things, unlike depression, unlike a lot of other things, it's a very different beast. You can't really feel your way out of trauma. You cannot talk yourself out of trauma. It's all connected to your nervous system, and it brings you to a very, very basic human response of fight or flight. So a lot of people could have experienced really like not able to move forward with things that happened in 2020, or feeling like they're completely frozen, or that they're just going insane. And it's a whole other conversation about how to heal trauma, and there's many books and experts and YouTube and videos and information that you can read out there that is amazing. But just remember that it's okay if 2020 brought up what we call trauma for you, meaning if you find yourself going like, wow, I remember in my childhood when they wouldn't let me do anything that I wanted to do, and it was very traumatic for me, and now I'm reliving it all of a sudden. I'm like, why am I so upset about it? It's not like I'm the only person that's going through that. It's nothing that anybody can control. Nobody's doing anything to me, and yet I feel completely out of control and like I can't handle it. That's because it's a response to a trauma thing that you've gone when you were younger. Does that answer your question a little bit, Jenny? I don't know if you have any specific question. It's always easier to answer a specific question. But trauma is complicated. And if that's something that you're really struggling with, go read some books. There's so many books out there, and expert and YouTube channel, amazing YouTube channels. But know that you are not alone and you're not doing anything wrong. It's just your nervous system, your body is responding to something that happened to you that when you were younger.
Yeah, I would say too, there are various comfort mechanisms, right? For self-comfort, and not just, it's great to have a counselor or a life coach or a mentor, any combination of those things who can help you process through that on a regular basis. But you can also, when you journal or, you can put your hand on your own heart and say, okay, little Betsy, I know you suffered. I know that was really painful, and it's okay that you're feeling that pain. But one of the things that we say in the emotional healing groups that I help with is that, children were at the mercy of the adults in their lives, but adults get to decide that the way that things are going to be. And we have a real opportunity to go back and, those triggers are telling us something. They are giving us an opportunity to go back and heal. And like you said, there are a lot of different methods and healing processes that we could get more into. And I can refer people to places like you.
There's a question that that Sarah wrote. Sarah, I hope I understand your question right. Let me know if not. What type of therapy do you find is the most effective? So again, I assume you're talking about trauma. If you do some research and study, you will get an answer to that question with books. But usually it's things that deal with the nervous system, EMDR, brain spotting, somatic therapy, which is kind of like feeling your body and letting your nervous system to regulate. Yes, CBD stuff, a lot of things that has to do with the nervous system. But again, you can always talk to therapists. You can always talk to people who have done different therapies. Psychology Today is a great website that lists every kind of therapist there is. We have another question. Are there any strategies you ladies have found helpful for dealing with trauma in the immediate moment?
Good.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're suffering very, very immediate and you need help, then, go to an urgent care, go make an appointment to a therapist right away as fast as you can. But my personal recommendation, again, this is not from a professional, this is my personal recommendation. I found that somatic work, somatic meaning the body work, is very helpful and helped me in a very short time to release trauma. And you can find somatic therapists. You can just Google it, and there are many of them everywhere in the country. And even one session can help you learn how to, when you have that hit, what to do with your body to release that. Very simple and very powerful. I hope that answers your question. Does anybody else have any experience or answer?
I think for me, it's been more, I just enjoy if you can find the right therapist that you really sync with, who is a good reflective listener, usually, or, there's certain kinds of prayer models in ministry that I found really useful to help me with healing specific memories. And there's a few different kind of models that I would recommend, especially Sozo. But I would say that overall, someone that just can help gently ask the right kind of questions to remind me that I've learned a lot more about communication dynamics. Let's just say that. I'd say that the most trauma that I've experienced is through relationships, not as much through, and then sometimes through car accidents and that kind of stuff. In the moment, I tend to be okay, but I've sort of learned that I can speak back to something that usually caused me a lot of just like tension and fear in my body, that I can respond to it by asking a question rather than just absorbing like an insult. I could speak back to it immediately, whereas before I could not really find my voice and I would just sort of absorb it and take it to heart. So that's just one example. So sometimes it's been helpful for me to take sort of a class or a rather than going through, but I'd like to explore EMDR a little more. There's a lot about that I'd like to do more reading about. Anybody else?
I'll jump in really quick. This is therapy for poor chicks. Okay. This is how you can do this when you can't afford a therapist. You can't afford to, fly to some sort of special program or something like that that can be really wonderful. I I had to do this when I had no money and no health insurance. And I started giving myself therapy. So I would recommend the following thing. Pull out your voice memos, gals, and talk on your voice memo as if you were in a therapy session, really, and just cry it out, let it out, say how you feel, and do it for, an hour or however long you need to, and then listen to that recording. And you can step in and be almost like your own healer, your own best friend. You're going to listen to yourself, empathize with yourself, just kind of get yourself and understand your pain. And actually get, a lot of times my clients that practice this will get these really, really deep and profound insights that heal them. And I found this, to be honest, even more effective than therapy. I really did.
That's amazing.
So that's one thing to do. The other thing you can do is put on a secret YouTube channel or a secret podcast and upload it. You don't have to put your name behind it, but eventually, if you're really sharing your feelings, you may have a couple hundred girls following you, just leaving sweet comments, listening to you. There is something so cathartic about just being heard,
Absolutely.
uninterrupted, and validated. And you can do this for yourself free of charge from your own home during this quarantine if you just can't afford it. And of course, anything in the arts. Like, I really recommend my singers. I have a voice studio, and I recommend that they really sing songs that really resonate with their soul and their feelings, and just get right in the feeling and right in the words and really immerse yourself and just be able to really express when you're writing poetry or music or creating art. Like, just be really uninhibited and super loving and non-judgy towards yourself. All of that is basically, you can do free, and you can do things like art lessons and YouTube singing classes and things like that from the comfort of your own home, no charge at all.
That's good. Flo, do you want to weigh in on that one?
Thank you. Ladies did a great job of covering it. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that Maia has had some really great workshops where, we've asked ourselves specific questions to try to get through specific blocks, and speak to our own heart. So I think that what both of you are saying is so important, that just allowing yourself to express your own feelings. We don't always have a great listener available to us, but keep going until you find two. Find one or two people that have the bandwidth to listen to you. It might just be a friend for now, but eventually, you might find a good therapist. It's interesting how different times I've wanted, one thing and then really needed another. So keep going, and you'll know when you find it, because you're gonna feel so much better. Well, we're at about 47 minutes, so I think that's about all for today. I'm really excited to have had this conversation with you all. Thank you for everything that you brought and all your affirmation and encouragement of each other and of me. And thank you to everybody that's been watching. We want to hear your questions for next week. We'll be on again next week again. Flo will be back with us, I hope, and got a couple of other new guests. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.